Hi, so nice to be here. I'm going to ask my participants for the panel to join me up on stage. So Vina, Nikki, Kenya, come on up. Thank you, ladies, for being up here. I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourselves so everyone can know who you are, what you do, which company you work for, or which company you own, and turn it over to you. We'll start with you, Vina.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, everyone, for being here on a Friday. This is a really packed room, so happy to see everyone. I'm Rina Reddy, the CEO of Neuro Rehab VR. We develop virtual reality applications for physical therapy and cognitive therapy, and I love building applications, and that's my introduction.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, for being here today. My name is Kenya Mobley. I am the owner and CEO of On Track Truck Driving School. It is Arlington's first female-owned truck driving school, and which happens to be a Black woman. Also, and to date, it's only 9 of us operating in the U.S. So kind of like a unicorn. So thank you, guys.
Hello, my name is Nikki Piña-Watana. I'm the founder and owner of Asian Mint Restaurants. We've been around for 18 years now. Who's been to Asian Mint before? Okay, that's good. Yes, love that. Also bring my own spices to the table. But yes, I'm really proud of what we do. I got into this because I love to feed and I love to serve, and was very lucky enough to be able to find my calling at a pretty young age.
Thank you all. You know, ladies, as you know, our topic is about defining success in times of change, and this has definitely been a lot of change happening, right, in the last couple of years. So I'm going to start with asking some questions to Kenya, if I can start with you. Kenya, with COVID and just this general sense of all of this change that's been happening over the last couple of years, right? How have you gotten out of situations that didn't work for you, whether it was related to the pandemic or just related to career?
Oh, that's a good one. So I always authentic to myself. I have a mission statement for my life, and I have core values. So I always circle back to those things. And if whatever's going on does not align with who I am and my purpose, flip the strip and I'm on to something else.
Can you tell us some of those core values?
Some of my core values is family, unity, self-love, worthiness, and of course my religion, God.
Yep.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Kenya. Vina, you know, when we met last week, we talked a lot about being a young CTO of your company and co-founder in your company. We talked a little bit about imposter syndrome, and I think many of us probably feel that way, right? How did you navigate your way through it?
Thank you for that question, and that's something that I've dealt with for a long time. I'm sure a lot of young people here are too. So especially being founder of a tech company in a very male-dominated space, this was something that I had to deal with since the beginning. And it's only about a couple years to a year that I've gotten over that imposter syndrome, and I help other young women overcome it. So it started with me being panels on such like these and with comparable other companies in the area, in the space. And when I am on these panels and I talk about what we do and the achievements we have done, and that's when I started to realize like I'm as good as they are.
Yes.
And that was something that helped me overcome that imposter syndrome. And then also being in this industry for a long time and having the technical skills. Usually when somebody thinks about virtual reality and technical skills, they do not think about me, even though I know how to build an app in a weekend at this point too, but that's something that kind of brings you down sometimes when going to your male counterparts versus you. But then again, and then you watched your male counterparts and others build their companies, and sometimes I observe them and I'm like, if it was me, I wouldn't have done that because these are the reasons. And it turns out right 2 years later. So just seeing that happen and the journey they've taken and the decisions I've made for my company and where we are at right now made me realize that I know what I'm doing. It's not easy and it takes a few years, but keep at it. And I'm sure like anybody who feels that way, just go learn. Learning is the best thing that you can do for yourself, acquiring those skills that you need. Working on a startup, for right now, I'm like, I can learn anything and do it. And that's how I also, kind of try to integrate that into my team members and anything that we do right now.
Yeah, thank you. I think we've all experienced that, right? So, Kenya, you look like you're busting at something you want to say. Please, share.
Imposter syndrome every day. Imposter syndrome right now. Because I'm trying to figure out, like, how did a country girl from Mississippi land on this stage? Like, you have that self-talk. They tell you, oh, you're not supposed to be here. But you have to talk yourself through it and say, yes, I worked very hard, and I deserve my seat at the table. So you just have to remind yourself, like, I deserve to be here.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So talking about that table, Nikki, we talked about your dinner table, right?
Yeah.
And some of the questions you ask your children. Can you tell us about that one particular question that we discussed? And I have a follow-up to that.
Okay. I love that you guys love that story, but it's something that I've learned from, I guess, YouTube a lot. I do use YouTube often to lift my spirits, in times that it's hard and, watch some motivational videos. And there was one of these that was Sarah Bakley, the owner of Spanx. And she was telling her story that when she was growing up, at the dinner table, her father would always ask them after school and, at dinner time, so what did you fail at today? And the kids would be like, why do you want me to fail? And I'm like, well, fail now so that when you actually go into the real world and there are life situations that push you down and whatnot, it's not so hard. So I do that with my kids. And at first, the first time, my daughter's 8 and my son's 13 now. I think we've been doing it for 5 years or so. And they would look at me and I'm like, Mom, why do you want me to fail? Like, that's just the weirdest question. And then I had to give the whole story of like, well, this billionaire, this woman billionaire did this and look where she got her. So it's just been so fun. And they actually are becoming more comfortable with the question. So it just takes time and it's not easy. And every now and then I'll try to turn on the YouTube. I'm like, I don't want to listen to that. And I'm like, they want to listen to music. He's like, but I just continue that one day it's going to absorb.
Yeah, there you go. Well, as a follow-up to that, what has failure taught you?
Many, 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 many things. Another thing that recently that I've heard was failure and success are not on opposite ends of your journey. Failure is actually on the same path to your success. The more failures you have, the more lessons you learn, and make sure that you learn from them so that you can get up and take that lessons and move on to the next thing that you need to fail at or succeed at, and eventually, hopefully, it'll succeed. I have a great example. So right before COVID in 2018, I have 4 restaurants at the moment, going on 5, and my third one, I wanted to do something different. I don't know if anyone even remembers this. Thank God COVID happened, because that was a really fun failure. And I wanted to open a new restaurant concept called Enjoyment in Richardson. It is probably 2-3 years ahead of its time. It was kiosk-based, no cash, cashless, very appropriate for COVID. But unfortunately, I closed it right before because it wasn't working well. I have a really big lesson is, I didn't realize how big my fan base was, imposter syndrome. I didn't realize how wide of a community that I was serving all the way over in Richardson. And I wanted to try something new. They would come in, my guests would come in and be like, oh, Nikki, I'm so excited you're in my city, but I would really love an Asian mitt. So they would come and support a few times, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna go back to the Forest Lane location because that's what I really want. And I'm like, I'm gonna try this for 1 year. Every year, losing money, losing money, losing money. My staff is like, what are you doing? Why don't you just like grab something that you have done successfully and just do that? I'm like, but I wanna try something new and fail at it miserably. And you know, it was a lesson learned, like, just do what you're good at, and maybe there's another opportunity to use that, maybe in an airport, or maybe now that COVID's in, people now love cashless. At the time, people were like, why won't you take my cash? It was really interesting. So yeah, that was a great lesson learned, and now it's a regular Asian Mint full service, and people are loving it again. So.
Great. Vina?
Yeah, I do have. Thank you for that story. I do have something to add about where I thought I was the biggest failure for the longest time. Is if you have, since this is more of an Asian community, you definitely understand everything that your parents are expecting from you. You need to do your bachelor's, do your master's, get a job, get married, get property, and that's the path that's set for you. But I knew I always wanted to start a company, but so I was making my decisions based on that, which is not, conventional. So as I finished my master's, I started to work for a startup when all my friends were working for an Adobe, an Intel, a Google, and I felt on my 25th birthday as the biggest failure, that I'm not doing anything with my life. And then because of visa issues, I had to go back to school to work on my PhD, and while I was doing that again, I saw my friends, getting higher salaries, going up, and they're becoming senior developers, and I'm stuck with a PhD. So I just wanted to tell everyone, for me, that time was like the biggest failure of my life, but then I got through it, and I started to work on build MVPs for other people's startup ideas, because even if I can't make one, I will help others. And that's how it started. Eventually, I was able to build my own company, and at this point, I think I'm fairly successful. Not there yet, but you can get over it. And like you said, it's a journey, and you just have to keep building, and you'll get there one day.
When we spoke to, all of you mentioned serving others, right? Whether it's your clients or your community or people that need your help, right? Kenya, you specifically said, am I supposed to be serving in a greater capacity? And that's a question that you ask yourself regularly. How do you serve at a greater capacity despite everything you already do? Like, who has time? How do you do it?
Well, I enjoy serving. So for me, a lot of people think when they see a truck driving school, they just think about, get a truck driver's license and you drive a truck. Well, my clients, they need more than that. I teach them a financial responsibility. We meditate. We work on the whole mindset. So once you get the parent whole, you send them back home to the kid, and they can water their own flower. Mm-hmm. So it's not just me taking care of the parent. I want to feed the parent who's going to feed the kid. Mm-hmm. And I want it to continue to go that way. And that way they can have a whole generation. Yep. So I want to serve on a bigger level than just give this parent a driver's license and let him out into the world.
Yeah, that whole generational blessing, right?
The whole generation.
Yeah. That's really beautiful. Nikki, what is your secret to rolling with it?
I'm rolling it right now. Wow. Don't take yourself so seriously, in a way. It's probably really important. We're all human beings. We're all on this planet to help each other and support each other. I am blessed enough to find communities that support me, and I support them. But without them, I would be nobody. It's my team that makes everything run. It's my people, it's my family, it's my husband, it's my mom. It's a large community to make it happen, and I do really just roll with it. I'm trying to think.
You're rolling well.
I'm rolling well? Okay, I'll just come up with another story.
No,
just believe in yourself, honestly. Believe in yourself, be authentic, and be true to, and try to find why you are, what your calling is and your purpose. And with that, the universe, I believe, will guide you the right direction, and you just need to listen to your gut. Us women have very, very powerful gut feelings, and a lot of times it's not always here that you need to be considering or making decisions by. You always need to gut check, and once I started doing that, it's been a good role.
Great, thank you so much. We touched on it briefly, but I'd like for each of you to talk a little bit about your personal story of change, how you got from where you were to where you are today as a leader in your industry. Kenya, can we start with you?
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, you did.
But as I mentioned before, I'm from Greenville, Mississippi, right? So it's a small poverty town, and a whole lot of things happen in the community, right? Yeah. So I was a teen mom, everything imaginable happened to me. And I just decided one day that I needed change. So I packed my kids up, $2,000 in my pocket, and the car that the repo man was looking for, and made it to Texas. But the thing was, I wanted change. So if you want something different, you have to do something different. And that's just been my whole take on life, just do something different.
Mm-hmm. Great. What about you, Vina?
That is a powerful story, and it's hard to follow that one. But again, it comes back to me trying to understand what I want to do with my life. And my first job was at Infosys, being a systems engineer. And even though the title was systems engineer, I was doing a lot of QA testing, which is manual QA testing. I was not using my brain as much as I could. So that's when I realized this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I knew that I wanted to get into, at that time, animation and filmmaking, but nobody really applied to come to the US when I was still in India to come to do that. And I still took the leap. And I was like, I will figure it out. And I landed in UT Dallas right here in the game design and development course. And I was the only Indian in the class for the whole course. And for me, that's when I thought, I'm a really, really smart person or I'm a really stupid person. It's one of these two. So nobody else chose it. Why am I choosing it? But I was able to make do. I was able to learn all the skills that I needed that I'm now being able to use for my company. And I think that was the best decision I made in my life, and I was able to be where I am right now. So recognize the change you want and just go and do it. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Nikki?
I guess one of the really interesting changes just coming out of COVID was when the restaurant industry got hit pretty hard, right? We had to close down dining rooms and all that. And I had to make a really difficult decision to decide, do I want to keep my restaurants open or not? And we had 4 at the time, and we're like, maybe we close 2 and keep 2 open. But I'm like, what am I gonna do with my staff? And we made that decision, and one of my team members said, Nikki, why do you want to do that? I'm like, I don't know. I really just don't know. But I listened to my team. They're like, just stay open, and let's see what happens. Luckily enough, our clientele, our Mint fanatics, came in and support us, and we're like, okay, we have a space and time for them. And one of the biggest stories that happened, and I think it caused more change, is I was at one of the locations, and it was probably a weekend after we had to close our dining rooms down. And she came up like in tears, and she's like, oh, what am I gonna do? I can't go sit at the bar and talk to my people and share my day. Like, that's like how I get lifted on a daily basis. And we're like a space. The restaurant is a space where you come and connect. We're not just feeding you, but we're really feeding your soul in a way so that you can go on and, do the best that you can do and how you were meant to be put on this earth. But when she came and did that, I just realized, like, wow, we're more than just a food. We're more than just feeding a plate into your tummy. And it just gave me more motivation to figure out, okay, how can I get a hot plate in your house without having a dining room? Yes, everything comes in a to-go container. It's great. You have to heated up, and I'm like, let me figure something else out. And that just created a lot of interesting, I guess I call them COVID babies that I birthed. I birthed a YouTube channel and teaching people how to cook, and then the sauce line, meal kits. And it really is because of the people around me, and it's my staff. What am I gonna do? How can I keep them busy? How am I gonna pay them? We need to figure out how to create a stream of income while our dining room is shut down. But it is really all goes back to, I believe that I've been put on this earth and blessed enough to be able to create jobs for people, and I want to protect that. I know it's not just that one person that I'm feeding, it is their family that they're sharing their income with. And I think that comes from a deeper space of why we do what we do and why we change and why we lead in a certain particular way. It's always pretty much about our people.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you. Vina, you touched on it earlier, but what advice would you give women that want to start their own companies or in the entrepreneurial spirit? What would you tell them?
I would say, start as soon as possible. You don't have, there's never a right time. So what I've always said is building the product or building an MVP and asking people if this is something that they need. Always do not create a solution and look for a problem, but create, ask people, understand what they want. And then as everybody thinks, forming the company, creating equity, and all of that comes later. So don't worry about that. Just go ahead and build what you want to build and surround yourself with the right people. Have that support system is what I would say. And I think one of the reasons I'm still here is because of the support system that I've built around me. And I have one person in the audience right there, Mr. George Brody. He's been an amazing support system, and sometimes I can call him about anything, and I know that he's there to help out with the company. And I do also have some of our investors right here. So this is for everybody in Dallas. There's an amazing ecosystem right here. You have the investment, you have the mentors, you have the people who have built companies, sold them, and this is the best time to start a company if you would want to just go ahead and do it. And for students who are still in school, I always say that's the best time to even start, because especially in UT Dallas, where I was able to find people in the computer science department, the business department, marketing, everybody you kind of need to start a company are already there. And that way, just starting with projects, you will know how you work with other people, what team do you want, what co-founders do you want, you start to understand all of that. So it's never, I'm going to build a company, it's going to happen. I think even though this is one company, I felt like I built 3 to 4 companies before that, working with the different teams of people to get to where I am right now to form the right team that we have. And that's also really, really important.
Yeah, thank you. Mentorship is definitely so important, right, in our community. So we encourage all of you to mentor and to be a mentee. Kenya, as a successful woman in business, right, how do you feel in your skin every day?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say I think America watched how it feels to be in my skin live a couple weeks ago with Supreme Ketanji Brown,
Yeah.
You can, So you can be overly qualified. Even with me, I can be overly qualified and still get a no. And I have to be okay with that. I can walk into a bank with the same credentials as someone else and it's still a no. But I have to be okay with that. So me getting to a place with being okay with no's, that's what it feels like to be in my skin. Like, you say no, okay, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what it feels like to be in my skin.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I'm going to ask you guys all the same question, and I suppose there could be different answers to this, the whole yes or no thing. But does it really matter what other people think of you? Who wants to start?
Yeah. It's a yes and a no. I'm still learning, through my journey. And as you're younger in your 20s, you think about a lot about what other people think about you. But as you grow older, you start to, it kind of changes a little bit. What I would say for me is what you should think about is your credibility. So I feel like I'm building my credibility as I go, and that's something that should, if others would want to know about you, and then that's when you form the support system. When you are credible and you do what you say, there'll be more people that will be to help you. But other than that, I don't feel you should think about what other people, say about you or think about you. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. Who wants to go next?
Sure. I agree with you. It's a yes and a no. It depends on the situation. But I guess the older you grow, the less that you care, which is pretty awesome. Be comfortable in your own skin and shine bright, and you will attract the right people who you want in your tribe, who you want around you anyway. So if they are going to be around you and bring your spirit and your energy down, cut them off earlier than later. Mm-hmm. And there's very gracious ways to say it. And to communicate that. And then I believe, again, in a lot of the energy field. If you surround yourself with great, amazing people who are much more successful than you, or are living in their skin and being very comfortable, you can learn and absorb a lot of that. And I want to be an example of that as well, so that I can attract the right kind of people.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a constant battle.
Yeah. Thank you. Kenya?
Well, for me, I've attended a lot of funerals, and I've noticed one thing in common. There's only one person in that casket. You only have one life to live. Live that for yourself. And what others think about me, it really doesn't matter, because when that day comes, I'm going to be the only person in that casket. So I don't care.
Pretty powerful stuff, you guys. Thank you. I think we may have a couple minutes for questions.
What's one transferable skill you would advise for other women that want to get in business?
To always stay true to you, stick to the plan. If your target is to open up a restaurant, open up that restaurant no matter what. Be non-negotiable. No plan B.
First of all, I love all your fashion up there.
We planned it.
You look
Yeah.
amazing. Is there a podcast or a book or any advice that you could give that is your go-to for helping to guide you to grow, and anything that you can share with us to help us to absorb your energy?
I listened to How I Built This by Guy Raz a lot, so that has helped, because right now you see them as billion-dollar companies, but knowing the journey that they went through to get there is very powerful, to show that if they can do it, you can do it, you are in the same situation they were. So that's my favorite podcast. And a book called Finding Founders. It's not very popular, but this was the first founder that spoke about all the lows and the highs of being a founder in a company. So those two.
My to-go book is Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. And it's edging out the ego. So once I get rid of me, then I can deal with people. So they're just building their relationships.
What is that called? I'm sorry.
A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle.
Thank you.
It's like one of Oprah's favorite
Yeah.
guy too. Yeah. So mine is, again, I go back to YouTube. I love just Googling motivational speeches. Often it's very successful people. And there's a really cool app that I've been sharing with a lot of my girlfriends as we all come out of COVID and living a new life. It's called I Am. And it's an affirmation app where on your phone, it'll just give you a positive thought. So sometimes we're living in our negative mind, and you're like, how do I get out of that? Because there's just so much negativity going on with everything. So I highly recommend that, and I love audibles. I got a couple of NPR podcasts I love, how things get started and things, just to learn the journey. Like you said, it's very powerful and encouraging. A few audibles that I love, what's his name? Igor? The guy who was the CEO of Disney? I forget what it's called. Iger. Thank you. Google that one. That was one of my favorites so far, and I listened to it, like just binged on it. But it was during the time when they were opening Disney in China, when he was trying to acquire Pixar and Marvel and all these concepts, now that it's, all together. And I was like, that is like very, very interesting how that came together. And a lot of biographies. I love listening to biographies of successful people.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much, ladies, for allowing me to moderate this discussion with you guys. Really appreciate it. And let's give a round of applause to Nikki, Kenya, and Vina.
Susan, do we have just one last question?
Oh, sure. Very quick.
Hello, everybody. Quick question. This is my first time here. I see restaurant owners, programmers, realtors, investors. It's all so typical. Is there another area as a woman that you can come up with? Like I have. That's one of the things. I make tequila.
Wow. That's cool.
I make tequila. I am 63 years old, and I started this company when I was 53. I did a tasting one time at Total Wine and More, and I was serving my tequila. This gentleman comes to me. I know he was from India, and he said, "Are you selling alcohol?" I said, "Sir, we don't sell lollipops here." Okay. But anyway, he was like, "You are a disgrace being an Indian selling alcohol, being a woman selling alcohol." I gave my middle finger. So it doesn't matter what age, what color, you have to diverse the other areas of business as well. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that means next year it's not going to be a champagne toast, it's going to be a shot of tequila.
Right? That's right. And you know what? Thank you, ladies, so much. Vina, do you recall we actually had you on a showcase for our USICOC Foundation, our Spirit of Innovation, a few years back before she became the leader that she is. So congratulations on that. And we're so proud of you for what you've accomplished. But Kenya and Nikki, you guys are amazing leaders as well. And I can't tell you how inspired we are by your stories that lead us into our own journeys and gives us courage and inspiration to move on. So thank you all for that. And Renda, your amazing guidance in this conversation was fantastic. We enjoyed it so much.